Hi class, welcome to another lovely Wednesday together. So today's conversation is going to be about why we sweat. I was having an interesting conversation with the fifth graders the other day about what makes us human and how we differentiate from other animals. And one of the really cool things about us is we're one of the only few that actually sweat in order to cool off. So a lot of other animals will pant to regulate their body temperature or just have different systems to do that. We're very unique in that we sweat, right? So we're going to break that down a little bit more, and I'm just going to present to you some kind of cool facts about human sweat and things we can learn about it. So first, let's just start off with what is sweat, right? Why do we sweat? So sweat is your body's way of cooling down. So when your body starts to sense that it's overheating, it starts sweating as a way to kind of control this temperature and keep you regulated. So we have two glands. So the first one is called eccrine glands, and these produce most of your sweat. So it's especially like the watery kind. These glands, they're mostly concentrated on the palms, the soles of your feet, your forehead, armpits, but they also cover the entire body. Next are the apocrine glands. Now these ones are larger. They're mostly located in the armpits, groin, breast area. They're the ones that most people associate with like BO, and they produce the most concentrated secretions after you go through puberty. So since they're near hair follicles, they're usually especially stinky. Now, pure sweat is actually odorless. So sweat itself is odorless. So what is it you're smelling when you sweat? Well, you might notice that the smell mostly comes from our pits, hence why we put deodorant there. And that's because the apocrine glands produce the bacteria that break down our sweat into like the scented fatty acids. Fun fact number 3 is different factors trigger those two glands to react. So besides just cooling down, there's other reasons why we sweat and why our body starts producing that sweat. One of them could be is because the nervous system controls sweat related to exercise and body temperature, and it triggers the eccrine glands to sweat. And then you have emotional sweat, right? Which comes from like being nervous. So it's coming from the apocrine glands. It's a little bit different. It does not serve any kind of function for regulating temperature, but it usually comes up when we're trying to combat some kind of upcoming challenge. So think in your mind, like think fight or flight. Your sweat might be a response to that. So when you're stressed, it's your body sending signals to your sweat glands to start working. Fun fact number 4 is that spicy foods can stimulate our sweat glands. So spicy foods contain capsaicin, which trick our brains into thinking that our body temperature is actually going up and increasing. So in turn, that triggers sweat production. So you might notice that when you're eating something super spicy, your body starts to sweat. It's because it thinks your body temperature is going up. And that's not the only thing that can make you like trick your body into thinking that your temperature is rising. Also, this can happen with food allergies, or if you have like intolerances to certain foods, those will also cause sweating while eating. So some people, you've probably heard people refer to the meat sweats. That's when you're eating too much meat and your metabolism spends so much energy breaking it down that your temperature actually goes up. Like it's working so hard to break those foods down. Another fun fact is foods like garlic, onions, and cabbage may actually worsen your body odor. So on top of stimulating sweat, foods can also affect how you smell when you do sweat. So as byproducts of certain foods are secreted, they interact with the bacteria on our skin, and that causes the foul-smelling odors. So levels of sulfur are high in foods like garlic and onions, so that's why it can cause that smell. This one's kind of a myth that I'm just going to debunk here and now, is that men don't actually sweat more than women. So there seems to be this belief that in the past, like, people have pretty much thought that men sweat more than women. But it's actually, there's studies that actually conclude that women have to work harder than men to work up a sweat. So that might be why people think that. But, they found that it actually has nothing to do with like our genders or anything, and it just has more to do with body size. Number 7 of our fun facts is that antiperspirants stop you from sweating and deodorants mask the smell. So these are different things we're talking about. We often talk about deodorants as just kind of an overarching term when we're talking about masking our BO smells. But there is that difference, right? So between deodorant and antiperspirants. Deodorants simply mask the smell, so it's like covering it up. And antiperspirants actually work to block the glands from sweating. So it actually keeps you from sweating. And usually it's using aluminum to do so. Surprisingly, your sweat might be saltier if you eat a low sodium diet. So I don't know if you've ever been running around, but some people are just like saltier sweaters than others. And you'll know this because your eyes sting when your sweat drips into it, or like your open cuts like will start burning, or you can even just taste it, right? Because sweat gets in our mouth sometimes. But that may be tied to your diet and because you actually drink a lot of water. What's important to note is just always replenish lost sodium after an intense workout. So whether that be through sports drinks or some tomato juice or pickles, like make sure you're getting that sodium back in your body, okay? Because that's important to function. Next is, lastly, I'll just mention how like genetics actually affect how much we sweat, right? So some people sweat more than others. That's totally normal. Whether you're a heavy sweater or you hardly sweat at all, one is not good or bad over the other. It's dependent on genetics, right? So on our parents. So we have some people who there's a condition called hyperhidrosis, and that causes someone to sweat much more than the average person. So people with hyperhidrosis sweat approximately 4 times more than what is needed to actually cool down your body, which is the reason why we're sweating. Only about 5% of Americans have that condition. On the flip side, people on the other end of the spectrum have hypohidrosis, and that's sweating too little. So sometimes you even need medication to like treat nerve damage or like severe dehydration because of that. Because that could actually be dangerous too. So I hope you learned some cool facts about sweating. If you have any more, feel free to shoot me a message and tell me what you think. Or if you notice anything about how animals regulate body temperature, I always really love engaging in those conversations. But I hope you all have a happy Wednesday, and we'll see you next time. Bye.